this one really, this recording really sucks, and it'll make sense as I go through it. Several days ago, I was at Walmart, young gentleman, and I was grabbing some stuff, and there was this dude, young dude, can't call him a gentleman because he sure as heck ain't, and this young lady, or person, they were sitting there talking. That's just and I'm doing my stuff, gonna grab some stuff out of the freezer aisle. And he does the whole usual the bigot thing of raising your voice just barely imperceptibly to say that he's not talking to me, so I couldn't be, but I knew because he doesn't realize how sensitive my hearing is. And, dynamic range. So he raises you, and anybody who knows that whole non-talk on talking to you crap that goes on. And that's where he started babbling about he started goes, oh, I stayed not working because it was $300, and if it wasn't for this, and this girl's listening to him, hanging on his every word, fawning, blah blah blah, and I'm listening to him, so I engage, and then he breaks. I go like, dude, this transportation backup is nothing to do. It's everything, a lot of it to do with COVID and the fact we live in a globalized society and it's going to have these hiccups. But the rhetoric or the emotional externalization that is being spewed by 45 in a way so that way you could keep the everyone angry, keep hammering their amygdala, keep because it hammers their amygdala externally, so the only positive place is back with him. That's the game. So it gets all of his supporters all riled up, and he's doing the whole normal. Well, and it's always the black people don't want to work. See, it's just the same way because then he went into the whole welfare thing. I'm like, there's nothing. Food stamps. There's nothing. They don't get anything on food stamps. It's nothing. It's absolutely. He goes, oh, I know people who get to live all the time, and I'm like, which is the BS. That's the BS argument. And then he started doing the whole. This kid, his argument then turned into pigeons, checkers with pigeons. So he takes off. I'm going around my own stuff, and he's still talking shit, and he's walking away, and he's still talking shit. So I just ran up to behind him. Don't touch him, of course. He starts to talk shit, and I look, all right, kid. Put my phone in my pocket. I said, you touch me? That's freaking an assault. Let's go. He realized that, yeah, that would not be a smart idea. And so as I'm turning away, I turn around, I walk around, and as I pass this young little girl who's actually from this area, this more rural area. She seems like she has both parents. She was raised right because she originally was, asking questions just to make sure. But it's that thing, feminine, and it's nothing against you. It's just this is purely biology and purely a way of thinking. So externalization of self. I said, walk by and go, yeah, I told you it was a fucking pussy. Quote. And that at that right as I said that, then she goes, somebody called the cops. It was right at that point. It was, and I'm walking away, and then this guy tries to go over to this other dude, the super on this line, tries to make it look like, oh, this guy's gonna be such a. And I'm like, look, dude, this dude's. I'm not even gonna try to argue this. This guy is gonna make his argument on the assumption to you that you're gonna immediately side with him because of the way, because unquote, I'm black. Those are my words. And then I walked off. And I go, there are cameras because it was in Walmart. So I go pick up something else, and as I'm coming back, this other chick working for Walmart was partially. I'm listening as I'm getting closer. She was partially trying to bitch about the fact that they raised their pay, but they also made them want to make them, speed up, which is BS because that means they lowered their pay. Trying to squeeze, which also from my perspective, if you need to get to those points, if you just put it on the bottom line, anyways, they just have it's the new Walmart ever since Walton passed. Just basically, it's the whole Southern boy stuff. So like they'll raise the pay now, but that pay will probably stay like this for another 30 years until they'll take so and then they take the any inflationary cost on labor, so the labor value goes down, and then they keep the inflation. That's so they've been making money off of these people off of via inflation for years. and it was done on purpose. It is done on purpose. So she's complaining about that, but she was also using it to try to find an in because she had just started to go talk about that dude, and I had happened to walk up at the exact time. She goes, "Well, I don't want to talk about it any, talk about that," because they were kind of, it was interspersed between the two. I go, "You don't want to talk about it, but your anger on it was you were talking and wanted to talk about it because you were trying to use that system to also back up this jerk." Women tend to protect the asshole because they think that's because, especially young, just realistically, I've learned that women really are not very good at actually seeing emotions at first. There's, they can see the very, very, very strong ones, but the very subtle ones, they're not there, or they consider that weakness. And because mainly they can't dump their emotive onto that person, they can't say, "Oh, this is here, hold my crap, here, hold my negative emotions." That's why narcissism is feminine, and psychopathy I consider masculine, because it's just object, emotion object, and that's what the danger of both Ty and Jana Lewis, Ty Briscoe and Jana Lewis, that you are protecting, and this is about to bite you in the ass, Madam Vice President. You, McChrystal and Kathleen Kennedy, working together, protecting this asshole through, and also your chief of staff that you seem to be trauma bonded to. So I walk away, and what that showed is, in that little microcosm of the situation, it showed how a narcissistic person is, one, a coward, two, how they reel people in, because she was fawning, thinking, "Oh, this guy's this great dude," and because he was playing on, I assume, her parents' racism, or, and the big lie, just kind of spreading because it was useful, and because all you had to do, mimic Trump, mimic, say the lie, and just be strong about it when he's really a coward. So that's situation one. Now, the reason, so it shows, back to some say, what it does is it shows the behavior pattern within that one little thing. It showed the behavior pattern, how they recruit enablers, how they need an externalized boogie person to recruit those enablers, and how those enablers, through social conditioning, uh, will work on those who are not jerks. Also, so all of this enabling, and that's why bigotry and racism is racism, and that's why they're attacking critical race theory, because if people actually learn that, okay, yeah, I got my position, I bust my butt, but I really might not be the absolute best person because the whole system is designed for me to fail 20 times and still get a job. It's kind of like that dude Gary, that McChrystal, I mean not Crystal, McRaven was using, another Texan. I'm pretty sure he's still working because I can sense the feeling that he's still working. Fail your ass off and still get a job. Lovely. That's bigotry 101. And so that sets up this whole situation, which is really the main thing. Well, the second main thing. And this is what makes this even more horrible and fuck her. See, this is Madison Orange. And you could say she's going to say that she's going to say she what happened was a while ago. Because Jana is very good of using enablers to attack, and she had everyone attacking me. Ty and there's checks in the mix. Ty and Holly and Jana had their little orgy, and it was a dominance orgy over Madison Orange. And I got pissed. I'm like, look, dude, you've been attacking me. What the fuck's wrong with you? What's up with this whole dominance? And it was a dominance over her. She thought I was talking about dominance over me. It was dominance over her. When Holly, last week, when Holly Adams was speaking, she said something about being gay, whatever. It was very subtle. It was her gaslight. She loves gaslighting. She is not trusted even at her works at KCRW. You know, she's the one who you're used to her saying the weather in LA off of KCRW, but that's about as useful as she is. They had another orgy or whatever. Anytime that was a psychological rape under California statutes. Now she won't say it because it'll be a trauma bond, and that's what Holly and that's what when they're that's what they're. Let's see here. Where is where is that's not looking for? Show my history. She would never say it, but because it would show the trauma of the situation. They all know. They're all terrified. This is, Beth Schlesinger. I think that's how you say it. And then this is Holly Noel. Holly Noel happens to have her and her husband a have a record label, house record label, and he's from England. Those two, Beth and Holly, were just, you know, hopefully they didn't sign anything but with them. I even warned them. I said, don't sign any contracts. See, with that part, what she's talking about, Holly was there when I just was talking to her, and she said, "Oh, we were out yesterday. Or that was a smokescreen to make me think that they were just tired." This was a dominance. This is all a dominance play. You keep protecting a fucking drug dealer who's so he can get into the music for Kathleen Kennedy. She's already pushed Troy Duvall out of Hollywood physically, so that means Ty probably threatened him physically as well, because that's the only thing that keeps coming up. She uses Ty to threaten people physically. This is the same shit that happened down in Mexico. He will continue to get worse, and you keep hiding behind him. And this was done on purpose to attack you, because I remember I said something about Trump to Jana, and she's like, "Woo!" There's another narcissist just like me. All three of them are working together. You're you've attacked me mercilessly while protecting this asshole through your chief of staff and McRaven. So Kathleen Kennedy keeps trying to push this whole Sith to Jedi because that way he could be like shit. So you have to be pristine. No, 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 no. I'm a human being. I do what the fuck I want. I like sex. Ty is actually trying to be me. I wouldn't sleep with those two fuckers. They suck. I mean, Jana and because they what he has is this little three-way thing going, and that's the same way that you turn hookers into hookers. You break them, make them do shit that they don't want to really do, and then they become trauma bonded. And that's what they're doing to Madison Orange, destroying her heart. See, Holly is also the one trying to kill Brandon. All three of them are working together. And it was also designed to make you look bad. I'm supposed to get upset with you. Well, I am upset with you. You just don't get it. This is exactly what, because it was one of the questions I asked: how do they do this? How do these drug dealers destroy the African American community? And now he just showed me, because he doesn't. Because you can look at just the contracts between hip hop contracts, which are riddled with gang members, especially out west. And when you look at the contracts, you go, these people suck. And and it also tells you a lot about the culture of African America just by the contracts. You kept the bottom, lowest, worst 20% of the African American black culture. You know, black folks would be like, "Oh, this is cool." The rest of the world, we look at you like fucking, like, what the fuck's wrong with you? We view you as very violent and just non-trustworthy. And you're like, "Well, you can't say that about us." Yeah, I can, especially after you've attacked me so much. But we have bigger fish to fry. So, you know, this is the situation. You keep protecting them, and you keep holding on to your chief of staff. And you might say, well, your friend's close and enemy's closer. Normally, yes, but unfortunately, your enemy controls you through your chief of staff and the persons your chief of staff hired. And anything she's saying, it's called future faking. She's not going to change. And she is making sure that you are trauma bonded and you just betrayed the European American women that put you in power. Now, let's get back to the Queen. And well, last time I spoke, it was, somebody said I might have been speaking for the Queen or whatever. Please spare me. We were both persons born of wealth and worth. No one speaks for us. We speak for ourselves. But we can, and two, she also understood. She's wise enough. She's been in position for long enough not to kill the messenger, so to speak. That's why, that whole pomp and circumstances stuff. That's to tell you how to behave, so you don't get your head cut off in the olden times. But what I said still stands. But as head of state, you know, what ends up happening is the two duchesses over this time have done, because this was also the same thing that they were, Ty and Jana and Holly were doing. Oh, speaking of which, what Ty's goal is to set up the same type of system of extortion that's done within the hip hop community venues. Because if you're at this venue, then it's this gang, or if you go to that venue, it's that gang. You can't do this, or same shit, but within the house community, which therefore removes the absolute positive spirit of house, which was more just like, dude, what's up, bro? Having a good time? Yeah, dude, cool, bro. None of this, because just like, I would never do hip hop because you fuckers can't quit shooting each other. It's a waste of time. It's too gang infested, too cartel infested. So anyway, so what she was doing is the duchesses were doing what I call pinging. They'll ping and they'll sit there and they'll double check. And the queen, oh, can't you believe that American? Oh, yes, that terrible American. Oh, can you believe? Oh, yes, oh, yeah. And they just do all these little pingings. They've probably been doing it all weekend. And the queen, wise, has probably just sat there. Oh, yes, agreed with them. And then when Kate Middleton's out of ear, thinks the queen's out of ear or something or whatever, like, so I fooled that fuddy duddy. She might not say it directly, but she definitely body language it. She's damn sure thinking it. Camilla may be like, whew, that was a close one. Little Kate would be just pure arrogance. So what Kate doesn't realize, or have forgotten, Queen's not going to say anything to them because she has to protect her family. She has to protect her son and her grandson. So she's going to say nothing, because the situation I spoke of was not head of state but head of country, which is the parliament and prime minister. Now, parliament, we have this situation with AUKUS. Now I know the president has sent somebody over because they had to smooth over France. Going, "Hey, dude, we're just gonna pull the rug on you on that, on that." But so apparently they've been quiet, but they've pulled, got that together. What I do think is we need to look at ways we can, because you have Ethiopia. I mean, of course, not doing any subs with Ethiopia, but we have that port in Addis Ababa. And if you're quote Christian, you have the Christian church and the small Jewish enclave in that area, basically the place of Sheba after the rabbis took off after the fall of the Second Temple. Some of them headed down to the lands of what we would Ethiopia, or what was called the lands of Sheba. South Africa, we find a way between France and then because South Africa did what was right. What happened in South Africa was Ramaphosa and Mandela were supposed to, well, may not have known it. When they were given all these shares, they were supposed to send out the shares to the rest or use that to create new businesses or whatever within South Africa, and they took all the money. And then that meant, and Zuma got cut out, and Zuma then felt like that's how Zuma gained power because he felt like the rest of the poor South Africans here, they got all the money and he got nothing, but then he ends up doing state capture and all this, and that's why they rioted. But the bottom line is, even so, I realized the business leaders would have known he would have screwed everybody over anyway. Zuma can't play. The reason they didn't give Zuma anything is because he knows he would have been a shit either way. Because money doesn't need to change you, just shows who you were already. So we need to create three trade points within South Africa. With Cinema Walking going over there, trade in the United States is negotiated by the president and then goes to Congress. She's going to say that she was, at worst, just following up on the AUKUS trade thing when really she was just gaining money and using that as a secondary position to gain whatever Kate and whatever were saying. Cinema's not that clever. Or she thinks she's clever. Everyone thinks they're clever. With that saying, what that does is saying that this person has put herself, these two duchesses have put themselves above Parliament. And anyone in the Commonwealth, or on the British Isle itself should be very, very concerned. The family doing things around Parliament when it comes to the situations of state and situations of the country and government. See, the Prime Minister is head of government, the Queen is head of state. But this was involving the government, which means now we're kind of confused because the question now is, will these duchesses be interfering in situations of government because, well, they had somebody said something not so nice. That was probably true. Can't be having that because it means, are these contracts these agreements we create, are they going to be followed through, or are they just going to have the wind's going to blow and then it's like, she had a bad day, and then she whispered in the ear of the king and they blew everything up. So they need to know their place. But once again, the Queen's going to protect her family. So Parliament has to sit there. The House of Lords should be the House of Commons, but especially the House of Lords should be extremely nervous about their behaviors. So now the Prime Minister has to massage the House of Lords, massage the House of Commons. He has to go and have a conversation with the Queen. Of course, they'll just be regular business. It might be a few little bits of that, but they'll understand. Do you have control over these idiots? Can they be at least trusted to follow protocol. And at that point, now it's not going to he's not going to go out of his way, of course, because that would be embarrassing to the queen. It has to be normal, regular protocol. That conversation would happen quietly, never said, never heard, never spoken by anybody else. At that point, the duchesses better show up. They better make on the calendar, not just at dinner or whatever, because that becomes this is a matter of the crown, not a matter of the queen. And if they make the crown wait, yeah, that wouldn't be smart. And you will be meeting the crown as the queen as the crown, and you will make time on the calendar. Not on the calendar, of course, it's on the calendar, but nobody needs to know about it. And you will meet her unofficially as the crown, and you'll have that conversation. And you're going to say, "Well, who the hell do you think you are?" This is a matter of government, not a matter of state. And now it's a matter of state and government. All of this is the same behaviors over and over and over again, and they all lead to the same outcomes. Because these, without constraint, it's just becomes super ego trying to outdo super ego. So, what do I want out of this negotiation? Of all the things that bugs me is is okay. We take care of our seniors, and we prepare for the future. We live in a fast-paced, technologically changing world. They keep trying to cut out free community college. Free community college means college, or if you're not getting college, at least trade school, because it's AS or AA. So you're getting your education to be a plumber, a welder, or, the basic education necessary to do these trades and to do different types of service or non-service trades. What did they do? You had to increase the Pell Grants. What we know about the Pell Grants is when they were put in, then the schools raised their rates to get more, and they still keep push African Americans. It was designed actually how to help African Americans and everybody else get in to pay for school. They just colleges and universities just use that to screw African Americans over, raise their rates, still make it impossible to get into and get educated. So you raise Pell Grants, so it's the same shit, different pile, just 50 years later. Paying for community college also makes the portability of education to them as opposed to Wall Street. The whole thing is the whole idea is they purposely try have bent to keep workers saddled with this debt, because when you're saddled with the debt, you can't move around. If a lot of those workers, young people, and all this in this great resignation thing going on, that's proven most of that workers are tired of just getting kicked in the teeth for no money, and then seeing, pardon me, and then seeing where the the Fed has pumped the money into the falsely, and they've disconnected the real economy from the financialized economy, and then they're going to tank the real economy again, and then pull money using the financial economy, then buy up all the housing. That's that's a bunch of BS. One of the things I'm thinking about is using treasuries, because you have your different types of treasuries, to because there's too much money sloshing around. The Fed's going to have to stop quantitative easing. The money's going to want to need to go someplace. So we have four different types of treasuries. And the way I'm still looking at it, there's one part I want to do that separate from the video. Probably I will do that this afternoon because I'm going to do more research on. I'm going to finally put together something of it as a stub. But using treasuries to pay for pay for these programs, because you can create bonds and say, okay, in this bond, it'll be. I don't want to get into that one on this rant because I want to just have this about this. That this you this is all the same pattern, same feces, different pile. And Kathleen Kennedy is working against you. So is McRaven, and so is your chief of staff. And you attack me, which is right on par with what persons who externalize themselves do. Both persons who are highly possibly and psychopathic and highly narcissistic in personality behaviors, patterns, behavior, and yeah, Madison Orange, even though she's, because she has a really big heart, um, their whole thing is to um, basically end up breaking her slowly over time. Keep getting her into this whole little thing of theirs. He views those three them as his hoes, and Holly's gay as well. So, because Holly's been in love with Jana, and she's so trauma bonded. And they've told me this, the whole Three Musketeers, different things. Um, she's assuming I wouldn't know what was going on. But yeah, Brandon, Holly is trying to kill you. Holly wants you dead. Women don't usually kill by a bullet or whatever. They do by poisoning or because it's members of the network. Remove them. Remove if your person's out of the network, then they're not there. They don't exist. It's, that's the way women. That's the feminine way of thinking. That's why they get away with a lot of shit, especially when he's like PJ Washington has that kid. He bangs that Instagrammer. She gets a kid. She even says that and then she goes and tries to steal all of his money. Your body, your choice. My resources, my choice. The law's holding up bad behavior by this chick, and it's going to try to hold up bad behavior by these people as well. And then you have the culture of California, which has a high degree of narcissism as a culture, especially compared to the rest of the country. So she's not going to ever say it, but about Holly Noel and uh, they know what's up. They know, and you're digging your own grave, Vice President. But you attacked me. I'm the most dangerous thing to them, and they're going to try it. So now, also with that, Kathleen Kennedy is going to attack harder. Keeps trying to. That's her thing. Trying to keep pushing this whole Sith or you're a Jedi. No, I'm not a Jedi. But her main thing with that is she wants to create these two religions, so that way she could be head of one of, or actually both of them, and control all the fingers. Plus, have cash, tax-free growth. Like, as I said, Kathleen Kennedy is just a horrible human being. She absolutely is. I'm pretty sure my hypothesis that George Lucas did not want to sell Star Wars, but he sold it to Disney to protect it from her. And then he wrote that third trilogy just hoping that she would just, you know, get her head out of her ass. But she's too far gone, George. Whatever that person was, she wasn't really there. And once she learned more metaphysics, she became worse. It opened up the meme demon even deeper. This is just a vessel for these actions. Anyways, have a great day.